Ever since budget 2025 is out, my phone hasn't stopped ringing. People keep asking me whether they should switch to the new tax regime or stick with the old one, and what is going to be benefit for them. And most asked question was this: whether this changes is going to be applicable this year or by next year. Hi everybody, my name is Soumya Santosh. I'm a CMA finalist. In this video, I'm going to clear all of your major doubts, and with that, I'm going to give example so that you can able to understand what is going to be taxable liability in both the cases, in the old tax regime and the new tax regime. Okay, and with that, if the limit exceed, the basic limit exceeds, what is going to be taxable rate and how much you are going to save in these cases. With that, what is going to be TDS-TCS rate, as there are some rates which is being increased or some of the limits are decreased, so which is really important for this financial year. We have to keep these things in our mind. So let's get into this video, guys. Okay, so here first thing which is mostly is going to applicable in this July return which we are going to file for the individual one. No, this budget is only going to be applicable for the next year. Okay, here I'm going to tell you how. As many people assume that the budget changes will only apply to July 2025 return, but that's not how it's work. For the direct tax changes, most changes like the TDS exemption, the deduction is going to be applied this year, okay, from the April 1st 2025, like which is going to the financial year 25-26, and whatever we are going to file the return right in this July is for the financial year 24-25. इतनी बात समझ में आ गई? हाँ जी. So this was simply clear to you. Hope so. And what about the indirect tax changes like the GST, custom duty updates, and the similar provision often apply immediately or from a specific date which is announced in the budget. Okay, so hope so this makes a better clarity among you. Okay, so I will tell you one thing, that let's not jump into conclusion of budget for the taxation purpose, because there is something new which is going to come. Okay, the DTC, which is direct tax code. What is this? This is going to introduce in the parliament in the 10th of February 2025, which means today. Okay, so we cannot jump into conclusion now, because as the DTC, the Direct Tax Code, is going to remove or replace, I can say, the Direct Taxation Act 1961. Okay, so we cannot jump into conclusion without knowing it. Okay, so what is DTC and why it is introduced? Replace, we know that it's going to replace it, but why it's replaced? Okay, it's aimed to simplify tax laws and possibly change these slabs, exemption and the deduction. Okay, which means for a common person that it should be easily understandable for them. The government is going to remove the complex procedure. That's why they are bringing DTC. Okay, and why does it matter? Okay, if DTC is introduced soon, some of the budget 2025 provision might become irrelevant or undergo the major modification. So that's why I'm saying let's not jump into the conclusion, because that is something different. We don't know what is till now, and that could be anything beyond we have not thought even right now. Okay, so what should you do instead of assuming budget 2025 is the final word? Stay updated, because tax revaluation might be coming soon to us. Okay, so things is clear to you. Okay, that first was that we cannot make the conclusion once DTC is here. Let's get a more conclusion about the budget 2025. Second, the return which we are going to file July 2025 is for the previous year. As we all know that in the previous year we earned, the income we earned is going to be, we file the return for in the next year, in the next upcoming year. Okay, so you should know there is a difference between previous year and the assessment year. Okay, in previous year we earn income, okay, and in assessment year we file the return. Okay, we pay the tax to the government. Okay, so hope so this part is clear to you. Okay, let's go to some of the TDS. Okay, where the limit is increased as I told you, or removed, or TDS rate is increased or decreased. Okay, so a very good news to the senior citizen, okay, where the income of them is from interest income from bank. Okay, earlier the limit was for the senior citizen, I'm talking here, the limit was 50,000. okay, if the income from the bank, the interest in 50,000, then the TDS is going to be applicable and the rate was 10%. The senior citizen will get 45,000 in their hand, but this rate is now increased up to 1 lakh, which means more paisa in hands of senior citizen, which is a great news for all of us. Okay, so it is, the limit is being increased and it's up to 1 lakh. So TDS is untouchable, which means okay. And second thing is about the foreign remittance for education taken for the education purpose. Earlier the limit was 7 lakh, and if it exceeds 7 lakh, in that case 0.5% TCS was deductible. Okay, but now the limit 7 lakh is removed, it's waived off. But there is one condition, this loan amount should be taken from the recognized institution, then only it's going to be waived off, otherwise you will have to pay the TCS amount. Okay, let's go and let's get to know about things, that what were the rates earlier. Like if it was more than 7 lakh, as I told you, the TCS rate is going to be 0.5% for the educational purpose. Loan should be for the educational purpose. Now if the loan was not taken, okay, you are personally spending your money for your children, for your spouse, for anybody, okay, and the limit is more than 7 lakh. I told you earlier it was 0.5%. It should be taken from under the liberalized remittance scheme, okay. But if you have remittance the amount for the education purpose by the personally, in that case the rate is going to be 5%. Okay, and this 0.5% TCS is not applicable if it is done from whom? The recognized institution. So okay, the limit is not there, anything, no limit is there. Okay, so hope so this point is clear to you. Okay, this a very big relief for all the landlords, and you know that if the income from the rental income, I can say, was exceeding 2,40,000, then the tenant have to deduct the TDS of 10%. Okay, now the limit is increased, so for up to 6 lakh there is no TDS. Okay, earlier it was 240, now it's 6, Hannah. So which means the if your annual rent is up to 6 lakh, no TDS deduction, you will get the full amount in your hand. Second, only if you rent exceed 6 lakh will be TDS deduction. More cash flow, less hassle, and a big relief for the landlords. So this is the big and great news for all of the landlords. Then for surely more cash flow for the landlords, okay, it's going to impact positively, and which is going to give the less compliance burden and especially beneficial for the small landlords. Okay, then as I told you, these were the major things, okay, major TDS and TCS which we should know. Now let me tell you more about this thing. There are little more TDS rate which is being increased or decreased. And first, rental income as per section 194I, which we know earlier 2,40,000 was the limit, now it's 6 lakh. Okay, so up to 6 lakh कोई TDS नहीं पे करने का. Okay, then comes for the senior citizen, the section is 194A, limit was 50,000, now it's 1 lakh. So senior citizen can now earn up to 1 lakh in interest from bank or a post office without TDS provision, enhancing their disposable income. Third, increase in TDS threshold for their dividend income. Earlier it was 5,000, now the limit is 10,000. So investor receiving dividend up to 10,000 annually will not face TDS deduction, simplifying tax compliances. Fourth, reduction in TDS rate for this securitization trust income. Under section 194 LBC, the rate previously for TDS was 25%. Now TDS rate is going to be 10%. Here the investor in the securitization trust will benefit from the lower TDS rate, increase the post-tax return. Okay. Then comes the TDS rate for the timber sale. Earlier under section 206C, the rate was 2.5. Now it's 2%. So there is a decrease in rate, guys. Then removal of higher TDS and TCS rate for the non-filer, those who haven't filed their return for last 2 years. Okay. So for under section 206AB and 206CCA, this limit is removed. So this is omitted. Okay, so hope so this makes us simplifying the tax deduction and collection process. Then comes omission of TCS on sale of specified good under section 206C 1H, where if the goods was sold, it was exceeding 50 lakh, TCS was applicable. Here now it's omitted. So which means easing the compliance burden on business by removing the requirement to collect TCS on the large sale transaction. Okay. So these reform aim to seamless tax process, reduce the compliance burden and provide a relief to the various taxpayer segments. So this was a actually big relief given to the taxpayers. So let's go for the old tax regime now, guys, and new tax regime. As we all know, under old tax regime we were having a lot of deductions under section 80C, 80D and so many others were there. Okay, so there was a big benefit of that. Okay, so under the old tax regime, taxpayer can claim exemption and deduction like 80C, 80D and follow the progressive tax slab. The income up to 2,50,000 is tax free and tax slab are as follows. Okay, so if your income was up to 2,50,000, then no tax, you need not to pay any of the tax. Then come from 2,50,000, if it exceeds 2,50,000 to 5 lakh, the rate is going to be 5%. From 5 lakh, when it exceeds 5 lakh to 10 lakh, it's going to be 20%. And when the income of yours exceed 10 lakh, it's going to be 30% taxable. Okay. Then when it comes to new tax regime, a big relief, we all know that up to 12 lakh or 12,75,000. Confusion hai na? So up to 12 lakh or 12,75,000, there is no tax payable amount. Na? We need not to pay any of the tax here. So we'll understand this. Okay. So in case of this, in case of new tax regime, income up to 4 lakh is nil. 4 to 8, 5%, 8 to 12, 10%, 12 to 16, 15%, 16 to 20, 20%, 20 to 24, 25%, and more than 24 lakh, 30% is going to be applicable. So with the help of example, let's understand which tax, we should go for which tax regime. Okay. So under same, I'm going to talk about the same salary under old tax regime and the new tax regime. So let's go for old tax regime, guys. We have salary of 12 lakh. Okay, we have the salary of 12 lakh. There comes a deduction, the standard deduction under section 16, that is 50,000 under the old tax regime. So we have salary of 11,50,000 after deducting the standard deduction under section 16 of 50,000. Okay, so from here we are going to reduce the home loan if taken and then HRA, that is maximum of 2 lakh. So what is going to be our gross total income? Here 9,50,000 is going to be our gross income. Okay, here I have reduced, here I have taken the deduction and I am assuming that you have taken the deduction under these section. If you have not taken the deduction under these sections, so you cannot avail the deduction. Okay, so like 80C, what is going to be the deduction under section 80C? Like LIC, PPF, नाम तो सुना ही होगा, ठीक है, सुकन्या समृद्धि योजना and all, ठीक है. So if you have taken these things, ठीक है, then for surely you can avail the deduction under section 80C of maximum 1,50,000, guys. Okay, there is a limit of 80C plus 80CCD1 and 80CCC. Okay, so for these three, the limit is maximum 1,50,000. You cannot exceed these limit. Okay, you can only avail the deduction up to 1,50,000. Then comes section 80D. Section 80D is for the medical health insurance, where the individual person and his spouse can avail up to 25,000 if he or she, his spouse, is less than 60 years, and if his parents, he have taken the health insurance of his parents also, and his parents age exceeds 60 years, then of course they can go for 50,000 deduction. So here I have taken 75, 25 for the individual and his spouse, and 50,000 for his parents. Okay, so if you have not taken medical insurance in the section 80D, so you cannot avail this deduction. Okay, so total I have taken 75,000 here. Then comes 80CCD 1B, which is the additional deduction available for the employee, okay, related to NPS. So you can claim, apart from that, I told you 80CCD 1 and 80CCC, okay. The maximum limit was 1,50,000, right? But the employee can take this additional deduction under section 80CCD 1B, and maximum limit is 50,000. So can I say up to 2 lakh you can avail the deduction? Yes, if you have contributed to NPS, then only. Okay, then come 80CCD 2, employer contribution to NPS. So there is a deduction limit which is salary ka 40% basic, okay, 40% into 10, ठीक है, 40% of basic, okay, salary and all. Okay, so here the salary is 12 lakh, so 12 lakh of 40% into 10% is the rate which you can take here. So 4,80,000 ka 10% is 48,000. So this is going to be the deduction which is taken by you, and will get, by reducing this deduction from the gross total income, will get the total income of 627,000. And the taxable amount including cess is going to be 39,416. So let's understand how we compute this taxation. Okay, so in this total income of 627,000, the taxable is, as I told you, including cess was 39,416. Okay, as we know, the tax rate under the old tax regime is 0 to 2,50,000 is nil. Increase 2.5 lakh to 5 lakh, it's going to be 5%, and 5 to 10 it's going to be 20%, and more than 10 lakh it's going to be 30%. इतनी बात मुझे पता है. Okay, so as I know that my income is 6,27,000, and 6,27,000 is going to cover under this criteria. Okay, so 627,000 minus 5 lakh. Okay, so on 1,27,000, okay, ka 20% is going to be 25,400, and this 2,50,000 to 5 is again 2,50,000. The difference is going to be 2,15,000. Okay, for them the rate was 5%, so this is going to be 12,500. So the total is going to be 37,900. On this tax payable amount, we have to pay 4% cess, which is compulsory. Okay, so 37,900 में 4% health and education cess जोड़कर 1,516 में going to get, and the total tax payable is 39,416. इतनी बात समझ में आ गई? Under the old tax regime. इतनी बात भी समझ में आई? हाँ जी, बहुत अच्छे से. Let's go for the new tax regime. अच्छा, do we get any of the relief here? Okay, do we get any of the relief here? No. ठीक है, because the limit is, basic exemption limit is exceeded here. ठीक है, so you will not get the benefit here. Okay, so there is no relief under section 87A. What about new tax regime? As we know, salary is up to 12 lakh and the standard deduction is 75,000. So 11,25,000 is going to be my tax, the amount, okay, the total income. Am I going to get the home loan interest or HRA, which earlier I claimed maximum I can claim up to 2 lakh in the old tax regime, but in case of new tax regime I cannot claim this. Okay, so we are not allowed to take this. So what is going to be my gross total income here? 11,25,000. Now again, can I go for any of the deduction? But I'll tell you, you cannot take any of the deduction under the new tax regime, but there is one case where you can take, which is 80CCD 2. Okay, and in this case 80CCD 2, where we have taken the deduction in old tax regime, it was allowed 10%. In this case, it's going to be allowed 14%. So 12 lakh ka 40% ka 14% is going to be 67,200. So from gross total income we have reduced the deduction, we'll get the total income of 1057,800. And again 1057,800, how we are going to compute it? 1057,800 comes under this part. So 1057,800 reduce this amount 8 lakh. Okay, so whatever amount we'll get, we will multiply by what rate? 10%. Again this, okay, 4 lakh, 8 lakh less 4 lakh is going to be 4 lakh, 4 lakh of 5% is equal to 20,000. Okay, so by adding this we'll get 45,780. Okay, this is going to be a tax payable amount, but there is something which is to be added, which is health and education cess of 4%, which is 1832 on 45,780 का 4% ले लीजिए. Okay, so the total tax payable is 47,611. इतनी बात समझ में आई? हाँ जी. So yes, in this case old tax regime it was 49,416 and in case of the new tax regime it's going to be 47,611. तो टैक्स किस में फ़ायदा हुआ? अच्छा सुनो, अभी आओ तो ज़रा. In this case under the old tax regime no rebate under section 87A was allowed as it exceeds the amount. ठीक है, it exceed the salary amount was more than 7 lakh, right? That's why I cannot claim any of relief under section 87A. But in this case, I can claim in case of new tax regime 87A, I can go for the rebate under section 87A. And as my taxable amount is 47,611, 47,611, okay, and rebate under section 87A under the new tax regime is going to be what? 60,000. So whichever the amount is lower, I can claim up to that. इतनी बात समझ में आ गई. So my taxable amount is going to be 0. Okay, in case of new tax regime, I need not to pay the tax to the government. Okay, but in case of old one, you have to pay the tax. अब बात समझ में आ गई? हाँ जी. So what if here you have taken the salary of 12 lakh? So what if this is increased to 1275, dear? Still you need not to pay the tax. इतनी बात समझ में आ गई. So up to 12 lakh you need not to pay the tax under new tax regime. If you want to avail the benefit of deductions and go and check whether you are getting benefit under these two or not, then only switch to the new one. Most probably you are getting the benefit under new tax regime. ठीक है? हाँ जी. Okay, this was only about the salaried income. As we all know, there are 5 head of income. So apart from this there are other 4 head income also, ठीक है, so which is to be computed differently. Okay, so this was all about this part. So this part is cleared between to you that we should go for the old tax regime or new tax regime. Okay, and I was giving the example by comparing same salaried amount. Okay, same salary of 12 lakh. Now let's go for the salary 16,75,000. Are these salaried person going to get the benefit under new tax regime or not? Okay, so I have a salary of 16,75,000. I know I will get the deduction, standard deduction under section 16. ये तो मैं लूँगी बाबा, ठीक है. So we'll get the standard deduction of 75,000. So I'm having the gross total income of 16 lakh. Can I get any of the deduction? नहीं मिलेगा, ठीक है. So what is going to be the taxable amount of mine? Is going to be 1,20,000. Here get rebate under section 87 here नहीं मिलेगा, ठीक है. Why? The salary is more than 12 lakh here. If the gross total income of your was up to 12 lakh, ठीक है, then only you can avail the rebate under section 87A up to 60,000 or the amount payable, whichever is lower. ठीक है, whichever the taxable amount which was lower, then only you can go for it. ठीक है. So this is going to be the tax as per new tax regime. Here I have not add the cess. ठीक है, why I'll tell you. Now as per old tax regime it's going to be 1,80,000. So can I tell you that we save 60,000 if we opt for the new tax regime? Okay, and if you go for this, then again 4% HEC, both the cases you have to pay. You cannot ignore that. ठीक है, वो pay करना ही पड़ेगा. Okay, so for this also, for the new tax regime, for the person, for the salaried person who are having more salary than 12 lakh is also benefited. Let's go for the third case. We have taken the salary of 24,75,000. Again, I'll get the standard deduction under section 16. So what is going to be my gross total income? Of course 24 lakh. Okay, do I get the deduction? अच्छा, deduction ये वाला ज़रूर मिलेगा if you have taken, ठीक है, ये वाला, but for making it simpler I haven't taken here. Okay, so if you have taken that deduction, for surely you can claim it, otherwise you will not get any of the deduction for the new tax regime. Okay, so as per new tax regime, what is going to be my tax payable amount? It's going to be 3 lakh. Am I going to get any rebate under section 87A? Nakore baba, my gross total income exceed the 12 lakh, which is now 24 lakh. For surely I cannot avail 87A rebate. Okay, so what is going to be the taxable amount as per old tax regime? It's going to be 420,000. Now what I saved? I saved 1,20,000 in all the cases, right? So in this cases where my income was 16,75,000, my savings was 60,000 if I opt for the new tax regime, and in case of 24,75,000, again my savings is going to be 1,25,000 for the new one. And again, if I go for the new tax regime, okay, in case of 12 lakh salary, then again I need not to pay the tax, but in case of old I have to pay 39,416, and I'm not going to get any of the rebate under section 87A. Okay, so this was all about the video. Hope so you get my point, what I really want to say. This was the comparison between the old regime and new regime as per budget 2025. ठीक है, I repeat, as per budget 2025. Okay, and this budget is going to be applicable for the next year, है ना, जो अपन next year में return भरेंगे. इतनी बात समझ में आ गई? हाँ जी. So this is all about this, guys. Hope so you get it, है ना. And if you like this video, what you have to do, like करो, subscribe करो, and share this video to all the people, not only for CA, CMA, CS aspirant, for all the common people. Okay, so we'll meet in our next video. If you want to know about these videos in detail, let me know in the comment section. I will bring it on. Okay, tab tak ke liye, toodles guys. We'll meet in our next video.